33% people only have 240,000 plus ringgit in their EPF accounts.
You're putting 25% of your current income today to cover 100% of your expenses. Yep. And say if you live till 80, you're covering 25 years of 100% of expenses. If you don't even factor in inflation, you already know that doesn't make sense, right?
And you might live even longer than 75 years. What should I do so I don't have to end up in that situation? So a lot of people thought that capital is important.
The most important component is actually time.
And then the kids are going to go college, right? And then the second kid is going to college.
Or they have a third one or fourth one.
Gosh.
And then they realize my end number of years is not much left. I think we lost almost a generation of investors, right? Because they would tell their kids don't touch stocks, and they look at parents who are also stressed, right?
To solve a money problem, you have to solve with financial literacy.
Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome to Keep It 100 Talks. And the reason I created this podcast, this talk, is because I believe conversations have such a great way to influence our life. There might be a conversation that you're listening in, or maybe somebody that you're talking to. And in those moments, something in that conversation triggered an inspiration, triggered a whole new set of actions, decisions that open up a whole new path for your life. It's like a little window that opens up to a whole new world. So I want to bring those meaningful conversations in a podcast like this. So we bring in people who are willing to share their journey, share their mindset, share their thoughts and knowledge, revolving topics around mindset, money, and lifestyle. So with that, I got a favor to ask as well. If you ever find value in these conversations, please do us a big favor by subscribing to the channel and also sharing with your friends. Because I believe the larger the podcast grows, we're able to get more people onto this channel to provide you more value. Right, so thanks for watching this episode, and let's keep it 100, let's keep it real. Let's have some really good conversations in Keep It 100 Talks. Hello everybody, welcome back to Keep It 100 Talks. And today, there's a topic that I've been thinking about talking about. It may be very sensitive, but I thought about it, it's very important. Talking about retirement, we're talking about wealth, talking about finances. I read a statistic, and it says that from, this is from the Star, I believe, the EPF CEO says that most Malaysians don't have enough savings for retirement. And it's kind of scary when there are some other numbers, like 33% people only have 240,000 plus ringgit in their EPF accounts. That's what they deem to be okay for retirement. And I think we have to shed some light in this topic. And today I bring in a friend who actually is in the financial industry. And I hope that we can only shed some light in this conversation, but more importantly, perhaps what can we do? What practical steps we can do before it's too late, right? So today, we have Alvin from Equities Tracker.
Yeah, thanks
so much for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Thomas.
Yeah, so the reason I brought Alvin is because he not only, I see him to be an expert in investing, but he has a big passion in helping people to learn how to invest. Right? Some people are very good at investing. They keep all the tools for themselves. They do it for themselves, but they have a full operations, systems, tools, processes. You can really just jump in and learn from them. Now, I've been in their courses. They're really, really good.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So, Alvin, why is investing important?
Why? Okay, so if you talk about the EPF issue, right?
Yes.
If you talk about retirement. Quite interesting if you look at Malaysia versus some of the more developed countries, right? Mm-hmm. So, all developed countries will have a pension system, right?
Yeah.
Except, if you look at US or Australia, for example, they have a pension system where, like our EPF, as long as you earn, you put money aside. But what is different is that here in Malaysia, it's a centralized thing, right? So we have an EPF that takes care of everything.
Correct.
So much so that it makes us a little bit lazy because it's the default mode, right? Whereas if you go to US, you have your 401k, or in Australia, you have your superannuation. So the first day that you work, the first thing when you ask you to fill up is where you want to invest your retirement savings. So straight away, I think that mindset is that, I actually need to find out more about investing, right? So in the case, I think Malaysia, we kind of by default, we get 4-5% from EPF, and that's okay. So it doesn't make us think about investing. But to put it bluntly, if you think about it, if we're only depending on EPF for our full retirement savings, like what you rightly said, I don't think it's going to be enough, because you're putting 25% of your current income today to cover 100% of your expenses.
Yeah.
after working
Under 55 years old, right?
until 55 years old, and say if you live till 70
Yeah.
or 75 or even 80, you're covering 25 years of 100% of expenses, and if you don't even factor in inflation, you already know that doesn't make sense, right?
And you might live even longer than 75 years.
Yeah, correct, right? I guess the average Malaysian age for until we close our eyes.
Yeah.
For women is higher. I think for men is 76 and women is 78. So male and female also different, right? So if you're female, you're gonna live even longer. So therefore, your retirement plan needs to be longer than like guys like us
Yeah. And of course, then it sounds like you must go at 70. Your plan is that I must go at 76. Okay, I'll put it this way.
Yeah.
What do you think? It's 240,000 ringgit in your EPF savings. Is that enough for retirement? Because that's what they say. More than only, I know, of course, there are a big variance.
Yeah.
But what I was reading was that 33% people have more than 240,000. That's what they deem to be safe. But let's start with the 240,000. Is that really enough?
I think when we talk about inflation rate, so we have government inflation rate or CPI that they call it. That's they publish it everywhere, and the way it's calculated, it's a basket of goods and services. But how inflation really truly works, in my opinion, in real life, is very much lifestyle dependent. Right? It depends if you have Starbucks for coffee or you go to Kopitiam and have kopi, right? It is lifestyle dependent, right? So to really answer is 240 or 200 or
240,000.
240,000 enough. It's very much lifestyle dependent, also location dependent. Urban or non-urban or rural, right? So as we go, in the outskirts, you live maybe in a smaller town, things are a bit lower and you can stretch that dollar. The question is, it depends. But if you're urban, if you say you're urban and your lifestyle is say that Starbucks thing, then and you live till 76, then it's quite unlikely.
I mean, I just did some rough numbers in my head. Right?
Yeah.
So let's say I retire at 55.
Yeah.
Okay. So I got 240 grand.
Yeah.
And my expected time I live is another 20 years, right?
Okay.
So I'm a man, right? So
Yeah.
let's say, touch wood, I won't live to 76, right?
Okay.
Maybe if I have less stress, maybe I go to let's just say 75, okay?
Yeah.
Means if I did a rough calculation, if you divide 240,000 by 20, that's
what, 24,000. Oh, that's
no,
12,000
less than
a
that,
year.
12,000 ringgit a year. So it's 1,000 ringgit a month.
A month, yeah.
I mean, in my mind, that's not enough, isn't it? And that 1,000 ringgit may get you by 10,000 ringgit get you by maybe the first year very frugally. But by the time you hit the next 10 years, the 1,000 is going to be squashed.
In fact, I think that's even below minimum wage, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, $1,000 a month is below minimum wage, right? Yeah.
So how I mean that's kind of crazy. I mean just that number. That's why I really want to talk to you about. Is that number really like a lot of people might think 250,000 should be okay.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a view on this, right? So if say you had $250,000, right, and so we are investors, so our job is to make our money work harder than FD without taking too much risk, right? So our target is always trying to double every 5 years. So hypothetically, if you don't have a big sum and say you're retired and you have no active income, say hypothetically, and we take that example, right? So if say you put aside out of 250,000, what do you realistically think you need for the next 5 years, right? Say you can pull out, we pull out 100,000 just for sake of argument, or 120,000, right? Of course, you're not going to spend 120,000, so the 120,000 is going to last you for 5 years. And if you kind of divide that works out to
12 years. If you do 10,000 a month, 10,000 a year.
So 120,000 over 5 years, so 60. So what, is that 2,000 ish a month? Probably that would double it, right? If it's just for 5 years,
If you use for 5 years,
5 years,
220,000 ringgit divide by 5 years.
5 years.
Right? So it's around 24,000, 2,000 ringgit a month.
2,000 bucks a month, right?
Yeah.
So if you could have taken that, so you can stretch it a bit, because then you can put it into FD, you also earn some interest, right? Over time, so you can maybe stretch it a little bit, maybe 2,000-ish, right? Then if you can take that 120 and say invest it wisely without taking too much risk, and you can actually double it in 5 years, actually you reset that amount again, right? To 240, right?
Means you take half of it to use and take the other half to invest in, let's say, using the methods you guys have.
Yeah, correct.
Which is very defensive.
Defensive, right?
Yeah.
And say you can do that, right? Then really you kind of reset, you do a time extension, right? 5 years later, you restarted with another 240,000, right? And then you kind of repeat that lah. Of course, it's easier said than done, right? And you need to have the mental capacity and that emotional control, right? If you're investing, right? So could be investing in anything. Of course, not the scams and Ponzi schemes and all, right? Or the get rich quick scheme, But that's an idea, right? That how retirees can stretch that, right? Look at that time frame of how long do you think reasonably they can double that amount and then keep some of your side, lah.
But I would say that kind of situation is pretty stressful, isn't it? And it's not ideal.
No, definitely not.
And the reason why we have this podcast, because a lot of people watching this, perhaps you're not in the retirement age, and maybe I want to tweak the question a little bit to ask then, in order to avoid this, and I'm listening to this podcast, I'm probably, let's say 25 years old, I just graduated, right? And then another scenario is like, maybe I'm 40 years old, I got kids, right? I got bills to pay, and I just look at my APF account and like, man, that's like, maybe I got like 400,000. Maybe an urban area, my salary higher, 500,000.
Okay.
What should I do so that I don't have to end up in that situation, like what you just mentioned? Because I think that's, even though you can manage to sort of sort things out, but I think if I were in that situation, I wouldn't want to retire, right? A lot of people at 55 years old, they still will look for active income. They cannot accept that I'm ready to retire, right?
Correct.
So maybe let's give some point of view. Like if I'm 25 and I'm listening to this podcast, and that's the reality, right? In the next 30 years, if I don't sort this out right now, that's going to happen, right? So what should I do if let's say I'm 25 years old right now?
Okay, so I think the biggest, so we talk about capital. To me, I think there are two types of capital. There is that cash capital that we all think about. And then there's time capital.
Time capital.
Right, and time capital is something that you can never buy. So if you're 25 today, that means that you have time in front of you. You have a good 30 years to 55 or 35 years till 60, right? Because now retirement age for government servants is 60 now, right? They've pushed it to 60. So you've got time capital, which is great because with time capital, you can take a little bit more risk. Why I say that? Because if you make mistakes, you can always recover, right? So if you look at a very simple formula, people ask how to make money and all this. I said let's go back, let's be data driven a bit. How do you calculate future value, right? Future value is, we all learn this, right? Principal multiplied by rate of return to the power of number of years.
Right? The power of years.
Number of years, right? I mean, there's really only three factors if you think about it, right? So principal is how much you start off with.
Okay.
Rate of return is how skillful you are in making those returns and what asset class and risk reward ratio and so on and so forth, right? And N is number of years, right? So if one is low, right? Let's say you don't have a lot to start with. That means your initial capital is low. Then either you got to be very skillful, or you look at long period of time to get a very large future value, right? These are really only the three variables, right? So to increase R, rate of return, is skill level, right? Or find an asset class or find a good fund manager, right? To give you a decent return, right? Number of years is something that you already have if you're 25. You've got 30, 35 years, right? And the beauty of it, if you look at N, right? And if you look at that formula, it's to the power of. So it's a non-linear equation, right?
Why is it non-linear?
Non-linear, let's say it's like 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. That's linear, right? So anything to the power E to the power X to the power of, it's exponential, right? Right.
So for any additional year I have in front of me, it's not one.
It's not one to one. it's exponential, right?
So let's say if I'm 35 right now,
Yeah.
and I got a 25-year-old, someone who's 25 years old.
Yeah.
The 10 years is not really 10 years.
No, it's compounded 10 years.
Compounded 10 years.
Yeah, correct. It's an exponential of 10 years. Right? So if you look at, I mean, if, I'm really bad at maths, but you go and Google it, right? Because e to the power
Shouldn't say
x.
that if you're I'm very bad at maths. I'm just kidding.
I'm good for plus, minus, divide, and multiply. And then that's really all you need.
Yeah.
But if you look at math, right? E to the power x, it's an exponential curve, right? They call it that J curve, the hockey curve, right? So actually, if you look at that equation, the most important component is actually time.
Time. Because that's the most powerful one, isn't it?
That's the most powerful
So a lot of people thought that capital is important, but they forget that the last one is really powerful.
Correct.
So maybe we do a simulation. Let's say I'm 40 years old now.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. And let's say my capital is the same as the person who's 25. So he got 15 years ahead of me.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Let's say 50,000 or 100,000, both of 100,000.
Right.
How much at 55 years old? How much more will he have than me if we both put in at the same fund manager, same everything?
So same everything,
right? Just to give the gravity of how
the gravity. Okay, so let me we can work out the calculation. That'll be quite interesting. So how much again? How much do you start with?
Let's say I start with 100K.
100K, okay.
And then my let's say my younger cousin,
okay,
right? He's got 100K just like me.
Okay.
Right? But then I've only got 15 years less than him.
Okay.
Because I'm older than him.
Okay.
And we got the same performance.
Same performance,
Yeah.
Okay, let's say you got 100,000. And let's say one did 20 years, 100,000, say at, let's say we keep it simple, let's say 10%.
Yeah, 10%.
10%,
Yeah.
right? So after 20 years, the 100,000 would become 672,000.
Not bad. That's almost triple and more. No.
6 times.
6 times more.
6 times more. 20 years.
Damn.
But if you had done that 25 years, it becomes 984.
So a 50% more.
50% more.
Just having a 10 years at once.
5 years only, actually.
5 years. Oh.
5 years difference.
10 years. So, 5 years difference.
5 years difference.
So if I were 35
Yeah.
and I put that 100K,
yeah. And
I could have doubled.
Yeah, more than that.
50% more.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So how about if I go push back? Like if I went in 10 years.
Okay, so
before.
let's push back, right? Okay, let's do this on the fly. I've shared the spreadsheet with you so you can pull it, right? Let's say go to 10 years difference, okay? So how much would okay, let's have a look. This is based on 10% now.
10%, yeah.
10% now. Just since we're keeping it at 100, we won't use 100 now, we'll use 10 now.
I think generally you just want to get a gravity of how big it is.
Yeah. Okay, so if say you are at 45 and you invested for 20 years, so you say
40 years old. I'm 40 years old. Yeah.
Until 60 lah.
40 to 60 year old.
So 20 years,
20
right?
years of investing.
So 100,000 at 10% compounded would be hang on, I showed you just now 672,000.
Okay, so if I've got 100K and then my 10% return averagely, right, per year, and then after 20 years I went up with 672,000, which is massive, 6.7 times more.
Yeah,
okay?
6.7 times more.
And then if I were to invest 5 years earlier,
5 years earlier,
35 years old,
35, then it would be 984,000.
That's 50% more.
Roughly
That's
more,
9 times, right? From 6 times to 9 times, okay? You want to hold your... I'm really guessing where this is going, right? Right? Let's say if I invested at 30 years old, right?
30 years old till 60, so you got 30 years,
yeah.
right? It would be 1.5 million.
What?
Yeah.
1.5 million.
Yeah, 1.5 million.
So the difference between 10 years is more than double.
Actually, it's more than double, yeah. Close to more than double, yeah.
And what if I invested at 25 years old, the same money?
25, okay, so let me pull this down again.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm asking this because I think when you say the number of like exponential n and everything, that's a mathematic formula. But
Correct.
I think even like myself, I cannot grasp that.
Yep.
But when I start seeing the difference, it really impacts me. Right?
Yep.
It becomes something really, visual. I mean, there's no visual. I'm sure you can put the numbers down here.
Sure.
I'm sure the producers can do that for us. But I can't see the numbers, but
It's drum roll. You know, it's if you stretch it another 5 more years, so 35 years. So it's like, let's say a typical home loan lah. Let's say a typical home loan is 35 years lah, or 30 years lah. So if 35 years, you're looking at 2.5 million.
bloody.
Yeah.
Oh, 25 times.
Yeah, 25 times, correct.
And that's because of the last.
To the power of.
Man, I'm getting goosebumps. All right. So I think what I'm getting is, for the young people listening to this, sometimes they feel like I don't have a lot of capital, right? I don't have a lot of money, and they feel like it's not worth it, right? I should just, maybe I will think about retirement and savings when I'm older.
Correct, and we get that a lot as well. We always say, "Oh, let me save up a certain amount," so that the common, questions or common things I've noticed with our clientele or customers who come talk to us, they're like, "Oh, once I've saved up 50K or something, then I'm going to start investing." And I always tell them, that's not as important, because if you're young, yeah, granted you have less capital, that's fine, but you have time on your side, and that one money cannot buy.
Yeah.
So really, the earlier you start, the better off you're gonna be. That's the and if you look at the formula, you can't run, right? It's data driven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes sense because it's to the power of. Right?
And no matter if you go from 8%, 6%, 8%, 10%, the distance is going to be.
Correct.
Wow.
So it's yeah.
Correct. Okay. So, how many people who actually say I'll get the capital only I start, they really do that?
9 out of 10 people will tell me that. Or
And
close
they will
to
never
10
do
out
it.
of 10, right? And then they'll never do it, right? Or I mean, some of them do it, but we try and change that mindset a little bit. That it's not a if you have time, then capital is less important. The starting amount.
Just flip it the other way around. Let's say now, so I think I kind of conclude, if I'm 25, I go back to Henderson time in 25.
Yeah.
I would have started investing with 10K or 5K, right? And I think it's not just how much money I'm investing, it's actually embracing the discipline.
Correct.
Right? It's a discipline of putting aside money and watch it grow.
Yeah.
And not putting into things, looking for things that are more defensive, maybe certain blue chip stocks, buying in the right time,
Yeah.
So, but now I'm going to flip it around. Now I'm 40 years old. I'm watching this podcast and I'm 40 years old. And I'm thinking, man, I have no idea how to deal with this. What would be the approach? Because you told me some stories about people who are 40 years old.
Yeah.
And then they come for advice and
we get very diverse customers with they tell us stories, and we learn and we're trying to understand what goes on. So we get quite common, right? Where those in their 40s, mid 40s, right? Maybe some closer to 50. They call it the oh shit moment. Okay, oh shit moment, right?
When the almost hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Oh
shit. Because they realize, hey, I'm 45. Technically, in 10 years, I would have retired, right?
Yeah.
Or max 15 years.
Yeah.
And it's typically when you're at that age where the typical urbanite would have still have kids, thinking of going to college or
That's
uni.
the toughest point, isn't it? Because expenses is the highest.
The highest at that point,
and then
right?
the kids are going to go college,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Or maybe they're going high school, and then the second kid's going to college.
Yeah, or they have a third one or fourth one,
Gosh.
and then they realize, my end number of years is not much left, right?
Yes.
And we've seen a lot of cases where, at that point in time where you really shouldn't be taking that much risk, they go risk on, full on. They say, "Oh, I need to catch up. Therefore, I need to take on more risk," right?
Because that's the first thing I thought. If I'm 40 years old and I need the money fast,
Yeah,
then I'll do higher return things.
correct.
Right? That's the logic, right? Because I don't have the last multiplier.
Yeah.
So the middle one is like, how can I increase the percentage of return?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Exactly
Yeah.
right. I mean, it's
By logic
logic,
lah.
logic lah. But it's a very emotional. It's a very emotional kind of decision, right? I got no more time.
So I need like 12%, 15%,
25,
2x.
2x, right? Let's go 10x, right? And they take on these really crazy investments that they share with me, right? And really at that point is where you really should be not losing any more capital, right? You shouldn't, you really cannot afford to be losing that much capital, right? And we've seen cases where, people put in a lot more than they should have into very risky investments that, high risk, high return, they call it, right? But sometimes high risk, no return, or zero, right? Or negative, right?
Otherwise, you lose everything.
They lose everything, right? Yeah. And it's sad because really that that's why I always tell them, hey, calm down, relax first. Let's look at what you actually need.
Yeah.
All right. Let's work out some numbers, right? And then we can see what kind of risk profile you actually need to do, right? Don't react, because a lot of people react. Then the next thing their friend tell them, hey, I got this investment, can give you 5% every month, that kind of thing, consistent, right?
Walao,
and that's where it kind of it all falls apart lah.
I hear that and I get like chills because I think over the last especially the last 5 years, a lot of people get into certain platforms where they promise 7% a month or 6% a month, and I've seen people, because I joined some of the group calls. And they do some crazy moves, like they liquidate their property and they take all the money and they put it in there.
Crazy, right?
And then they are sharing how amazing their returns are. And I'm like, I'm pulling my hair, thinking like, are you serious?
Yeah.
They sold their properties. Because for me, properties is not, in my opinion, properties is a very good kind of forced savings.
I
right?
agree.
And it has in certain areas it also may also go up in value.
Correct.
And if you tenant it out, the tenant pays for the interest and stuff.
I think less people lose money in property than say stocks lah. Because it's long term in nature and things like that. So I agree.
It's harder to transact. People take slower.
A bit liquid, right?
The price drop, you won't go and shop and sell, right?
Panic,
Whereas you can click and sell here, right? Say, oh my god, my Dutch lady stock. Okay. But so what would I do then? I'm 40-year-old and I know that, let's say I need to at least have 1 million ringgit to retire. So I'll work out a number. I need 1 million ringgit because I take care of my wife. Maybe I need some emergency for myself. I don't want to sit at home all day and depending on my children and everything. Let's say I need to catch up.
Yep.
Right? And the worst part, as you mentioned, is that that's when you need the money the most. Your children needs money. You can't back off in the insurance because you want to make sure that you're covered.
Yep.
Right. You can't back off in the house payments because your children stay in the house. Right. You can't downsize. You got to move somewhere smaller. So what would you do? I know this is not financial advice. This is just a scenario, so we can actually have a in-depth, more like a something a bit more relatable. Yeah. So what would you do? If you're in that situation.
First thing I need to kind of figure out where, sometimes I realize that a lot of times when I go through this with some of my clients, the number that they think they need is actually not really the number they actually need when they actually work it out. You'll be surprised, actually it works out less. And because when you work out that number, you're only calculating expenses. You don't actually calculate your income, right? Right? So they're like, I need to earn this much, it's such a big number, right? But you actually kind of work it out. It's not that bad. Typically, I think like what you said earlier, actually like, I agree, buying property is good because it's forced savings, right? So when it comes to investments, if you use that same concept, right? If today you're going to buy a property today, you will put down payment, then typically get a loan. And then whether you're positive gear or negative gear, you are still committed every month to putting some money aside, right? Do that same thing, right? If you're 40 today, you'll be surprised what you can do in 20 years, right? If you are disciplined. So actually it's to build a plan in place, right? And to be disciplined, right? So like what we said earlier, putting 23% or 25% of our savings or our income today into EPF and saying that should be enough to cover 100% expenses, that's not realistic, right? So you'll be surprised what you can do, right? So of course, if you're 40, my assumption is that compared to say a 25-year-old, typical 25-year-old, you would have a higher P, more principal, more capital, right? So that would give you that little bit of head start. But if you're at 40 or you're 45, you got easily 20 years of investment, right? Easily 20. And in 20 years, you can do wonders. Yeah, you'll be surprised what you can do in 20 years, right? But you hold on to the same principle that you don't touch it, lah.
You kind of like invest and don't touch.
Invest like you go to property, you're not gonna buy a property today and say sell it 6 months later, right? So think of it as something that's so liquid. So if you go in with the same mindset, like what we just did, right? 100,000 at 10%, right? What we realize adds even more to that compounding factor. It's that amount that you put in every month, that discipline, right? And you see that even a small tweak, say an additional $500 a month, right? Over a 20-year period can be quite substantial, right? Right. That's what I would do, lah. Right. Work out the numbers first, and then you'll be surprised what. Actually, you can go online. There's so many calculators now online, right? You can just kind of calculate that if I had started with this and my estimated return is this, and I put money every month, and say I increase the amount that I put in over time, what's my end result? You'll be surprised.
But that's the EPF's function, isn't it? Like right?
Correct.
But let's say now outside of EPF, I have to also prepare this, and the same thing is discipline, right?
It's discipline. So you think of that process that you do in EPF where you're not supposed to touch it and you put money every month. Same concept, right? And if you kind of look at life, let's say 0 to 20, you're studying and you're in class, and then say at 60 you retire, say lah. So really, actually, if you think about it, your active income is about half your life. So let's say 20 to 60, it's about 40 years, right? And say 60 to 80, you retire, and then 0 to 20, right? So it's about half your life, right? That you have active income. So, I always draw this analogy is that the earlier you start investing is important. Why? Because if you think of ourselves as an aeroplane with 2 engines, right? We know for fact, already know right from day one, 2 engines, right, in a plane, that one engine sure gonna die. The active income one, where we work and we exchange time for money or skill for money or whatever it is, that will sure die, right? But you need your plane to keep flying, right? So you need your second engine to keep running, right? So it's when you have your active income, the 40 years, that you are building your second engine, which is your passive or your net worth income, lah. So that after this engine shuts off, and we know it will shut off, that second engine keeps flying, right?
You see something interesting, so say we know we'll shut off. And I think all of us will agree, we know one day we won't be working anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of people actually live as if that's going to happen.
Correct.
Yeah, we know it,
yeah,
but we don't act today like that's going to happen.
Yeah. And it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like when you said that, I was just thinking to myself, man, I was 25, and the reason why I didn't invest is like, I got time, right? I got time, I can work more, right? It's just a comment and just an observation. Yeah. Isn't it? We know it, but we just don't act as if. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, correct. And then wait till 45. Oh no, our engine's gonna be shut off one day.
Yeah.
We already know it, right? Yeah. So
what you're saying is that even at 40, you still have a chance. But what would be most important when I look in investment? Say I'm 40 years old. Like all this is great, and say, Alvin, I agree. I'm going to put away X amount additional every month. What kind of asset class should I look into? And you said something about like your goal shouldn't be looking for the highest return, correct? Your goal should be protecting your capital as much as you can.
Well, yeah, it's rule number 1, don't lose money, right? That's the whole idea. So I guess, so to answer the return, right? Again, comes back to a bit of an estimation of needs basis, lah. Yeah. So when we go through a plan, you say, look, I need 2 mil. That's one. And really, if you think about it, that number doesn't to be. It sounds scary, but I don't think it's unachievable. If you say 1 mil and you consistently put money aside and you have like 100,000 to start with over 20 years, I think it's very achievable.
So, but what will I be looking for first? So I look for, because you said this is the time you shouldn't be taking risk.
Yeah.
So what's the risk should be somewhere a bit low? What's the first thing I should? Is it capital protection? Because again, like you say, logic is time is short. I need more returns.
Correct,
I need to hit above average.
So you need to match, right? So we match. So So we know future value already.
Yeah.
We know I need say 1 mil lah.
Yeah.
That we know future value. So come back to the same formula, right? We also know how much principal we can start with today. We already know the end already. So now we determine the R. You see how it flips the other way around?
Yeah.
So depending what your R is, what is your rate of return? If by the time you calculate, it's actually only say 7%, any index ETF will do. Say example, right? But if you go back and calculate and say, hey, you know what? Actually, it's 15%. Then I need to look at different asset classes because it can't be just ETF because that will never help me achieve that goal. Then I would need a combination of maybe something low risk and then something high risk.
So you need to have a portfolio.
Effect. Yeah, you need a portfolio.
So you want to sort of push it above 8, but you want to have a strategic way to do it, not just whack for the...
Cannot whack lah. So what's important is that we need to match the return with asset class. So someone tells me, hey, my target is 30% a year. Then I say, look, stocks is not for you. Wrong asset class. If you want 30% compounded, because the best investor in the world today, Warren Buffett's track record, is actually 20% in the world's largest market.
And he's like he's like Red Bull in F1. Always winning, right? So, and then you're driving your Myvi, right?
Correct.
So you can't compare yourself to that, right?
You can't compare.
So to have this idea that I can beat Warren Buffett at 30%.
I think it's, let's be realistic. Like, he did it over 50 years, right? And we're talking about long-term returns. We're not talking about 1 year. Market good 1 year can make 30%. But you want to make 30% consistently on a compounded basis, stocks may not be the right asset class, right? Right? Maybe you're better off going up to Genting and putting red on black. That's so we have to match the return with the asset class.
So if we can't take huge risk at 40 because we want to protect our asset, and I need to catch up with the number. So I'm having this thought. Would you agree that perhaps what would be better is that I keep my risk reward at say 8%. I'm steady. I want to keep my capital because I can't lose it. Would it make more sense is that I either save a bit more, or I start finding way to make more money so I can save. I can put more money inside, right? Increase the first number.
That's
right?
possible.
Find a certain business idea, or maybe you start going into a side hustle, right? Or maybe try having a second income, and you dedicate that income majority to your retirement, right? So that would that be what do you think? Like,
I think that's one way. So that's on getting more capital in, increasing that P. The other way, if we look at the R part, which is the rate of return, would be maybe a combination of stocks. If you're willing to go for stocks for 20 years, then it's okay, right? And maybe throw in a small percentage in crypto as well. Or if you're going to bet on it for the next 20 years, right? So you can take risks, right? So it's the percentage of risk that you're going to take. So if let's say you're at 100% of your portfolio, say maybe you can put 2% in, say example, Bitcoin, and if it works out in the next 20 years, worst case scenario, you lose 2%.
Yeah.
Best case scenario, if it does become a strategic reserve asset or whatever it becomes, then that will give a huge return to your portfolio, right? So it's kind of portfolio allocation is important. Then you say, look, you know what? If I'm long term enough, I can do the rest in equities, right? Maybe some local equities, some foreign equities, right? Or I can park part of it in like foreign ETFs, for example, right? Like the S&P has done 8% quite consistently, over a long period of time. But of course, when you go in also matters, lah.
Yes.
Right. But so that kind of thing. So in terms of risk, we cannot say we don't take risk at all. We can take, but it is the percentage in your portfolio you're going to take.
You want to take the kind of risk that you can afford if something happens.
Right. If it goes bad, you're allocated 2% in something high. So I don't believe in that adage that the older you are, the lower risk you need to take. It's not about that. It's about
allocation.
Right.
I think my dad shared with me this. Yeah. He asked me a question when I was younger. He said, this perfectly matches that thing he shared with me. Because we both like cars, right? So we drive a lot of B roads. And he said, he asked me a question. If I overtake during the blind corner, like you're behind a car and you want to overtake this truck, it's a blind corner. Is it dangerous to overtake? Now, obviously, I told my dad, it's dangerous lah.
Yeah.
He asked me, what's the chance of you getting an accident? I said, very high. He said, you're wrong. Chance is very low. Because if you stand on the road, okay, and you count the number of seconds two cars cross each other,
Yeah.
all right, let's say over a 3-hour period,
Right.
the moment of crossing is actually very low by seconds.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because even if I do this and the car is still 10 seconds away, I'm not in the accident space, right?
Yeah.
But the question then is, can you afford if that happens? The answer is no.
Yeah.
Don't do it, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
And I think when what you're sharing with me is that take risk,
Yeah.
but the kind of risk where if it hits you, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
But if you kena means you win, then
Yeah.
you take the upside.
Correct.
So it's like, so what you're saying is that portfolio allocation is more important whether you're taking risk or not taking risk. It supersedes
Correct.
risk, right?
Correct. So it comes like hand in hand with risk taking. Yeah.
So don't just blindly look for 20%, 10%. It's about how do I look my overall portfolio.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Very good distinction.
Yeah.
But you say something interesting I want to go back to though. You say if you want 20%, 10% return, don't put in stocks.
No, 30%. If you say my target is 30%, right? Compounded for the next 20 years, I'm like, you know what?
But that's surprising because a lot of people might have this mindset that stock market can make a lot of money fast and everything.
Yeah.
Or you're in the stock market business, right? Okay,
Yeah.
and you educate and you yourself, you have a fund,
Yeah.
Equities Tracker, you guys do private mandate.
Yep.
So why do you say so? Because a lot of people see people coming out, maybe it's Wolf of Wall Street or all this, right?
It's not so sexy.
That one is, I mean, the allocation of the idea of Wall Street and trading and everything is like can make money fast and all.
Yeah.
And then you're now telling us that if you want to go 30%, don't look at stocks. So why is that so?
Okay, so again, we need to match. So I'm talking about long-term returns lah. Of course, short-term, you might get 30% for this short-term, right? Depending on timing.
Yeah, because somebody
and
say,
things like that.
Alvin, you're wrong, man. I bought Nvidia.
Yeah.
And I bought it at 2020 or something, and it kaput now to like I don't know how much already. I stopped looking already, right? Okay, and you're wrong. I made almost 3 times. All right.
Yeah.
Right. And some friends said, bro, I optioned this stock. I buy call, and now I'm like 10x or whatever.
Yeah. True. I mean, it's no, you're right. I mean, and I think rarely people get that lucky in a sense, right? So if you're running a portfolio of stocks, you just buy one stock lah, for example,
Yes.
right? That comes back to risk again, right? Because it can go this way, it can also go the other way lah.
Yeah.
Right, both ways, right? Is that if you look at on a portfolio basis, and if you look at Buffett being the benchmark, I look at him as benchmark because 50 years is in the world largest market, right? And he doesn't buy stocks, he buys companies, right? And if you look at his track record, which is really outstanding, 20% compounded, that means almost every 3.5 years he doubles his portfolio.
Wow.
Yeah.
I heard something along the lines where most of his net worth is made after 65, right?
Correct. Yes, correct.
Like
so
almost like 90% of his net worth.
we are all compounded at the end. Because remember that e to the power x is this, right? The parabolic curve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the x, so he's talking about compounding. So he's done, and if you look at 50 years track record, there may be 10 years that he's lost money. Normal, right?
Yeah.
Market.
Yeah.
But overall, he's up net 20% compounded. And these are like, we're not talking about billions that he's managing. It's huge, right? So if we're talking 30% and say, we're trying to beat Buffett, I think it's not realistic. Because you can get good 1 or 2 or 3 years, but to consistently do it, I think that's where it's difficult, right? I think more realistic number over the long term, if you look at 10 to 15%, I think it's doable, very doable. It's still less than Buffett, right? And if you look at Buffett, the excess he has is no one else has this kind of access.
The kind of information he gets.
Correct.
Right? The network is in.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, he gets presidents calling him to campaign for them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this level
Again,
of access, right?
Yeah, it's like you trying to race with Max Verstappen from
yeah.
Red Bull,
Yeah.
and all you have is a Myvi,
Yeah.
and the most you done is just Uluyam and Genting, right? Sure, you're fastest in Genting, right? But you're never going to come close to those guys, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No way, right? Exactly right. So it's access to information.
And I think one thing I just hit me is that he's a pro because he does it consistently. The professionals do it consistently.
Yeah.
And some people can make money today,
Yeah.
but then how consistent can they be? A professional is consistent, right? And I think the same thing like you go to a doctor. You don't want You don't want a doctor that has good days and bad days.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You want a consistent track
Yeah,
record.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh, today I feel a bit not so nice. Okay, then maybe your tube I put the other way around. Right?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But,
No, I mean, you talk about F1, right? I mean, these guys, all they do is drive.
Yeah.
Right. And they train and they drive.
and the
right?
access they get, the training, they got
Correct.
coaches, they got mental coach, they got physical coach,
Correct.
right? And then they got the whole pit crew working for them. You know?
Yeah.
People throwing millions of tens and millions of dollars, or maybe more than that, just to fix the car and build the car.
Yeah,
right?
right. They get the best of the best, right?
So they have that kind of access,
Access, right?
which is like Warren Buffett. He has all
Yeah,
the access.
All the access, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And if I'm a guy living in PJ, I'm quite far. You know, it's quite difficult, right? So I think that we just got to be a bit realistic. But even at 15%, you're still doubling every 5 years,
Which is very impressive.
which is very impressive, right?
Yeah.
And if you do it long enough, if 100 becomes 200 in 5 years, doesn't look like a lot, but 200 becomes 400 in the next 5 years, then it starts looking. But 400 to 800, 800 to 1.6. You see that compounding factor, right? It's always the tail end of the e to the power x where you get that compounding
biggest,
factor.
yeah. So, thanks for clarifying that. And I think when you say 30%, 40% is short term, and also there's more trading in nature, which is more speculative in nature, whereas investing is more
Long-term,
data driven,
Yeah.
as you teach in Tracker 1.
Yep, yep,
Right? It's more
yep.
data driven. You're buying a company that you know they're going to be there, the fundamentals are right. Yeah,
Right.
they're profitable. You know,
Yeah.
So the you want to buy them at the right price, right?
Commercial break.
If you're looking for a way to increase your income and looking for different businesses to do, I know what most of you are thinking. It's a lot of risk, it's a lot of capital involved. I don't know what to do. And that's why I created Team Infinity Academy, where we not only provide a way for people to get into the business world without forking a lot of capital, but we also provide the education and the vehicle. We have a way that I use to make my money, right? This is the business I run. And I want to teach people how to utilize my business to build a life of their dreams. Now, if you're interested to find out more, there is a preview. We're looking for the right business partners. And inside that business discovery session, you'll find out how this business can support you to build the life that you want to live. If you're interested to find out more, link in the description below. And sign up for one of our webinars. Will be mostly hosted by myself. See you there. I got a question to ask then, because some people might be thinking, I'm not good with accounting. I'm not good with business. I don't understand business.
Yeah.
So how do I say I want to go through the stock market? I want to do the 10-15%, right? I think okay, I'm watching this video. I'm like, okay, let's go for the 30%, so 30%, 10%, 15%, or 8%, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not good with accounting. I'm not good with business, right? How do I start?
I would shamelessly plug myself here. Come to Equities Tracker, then we'll get you started, right? But no, I think it's educating yourself. I think that's very key. And I think, when I first started investing, more over 20 years ago, the amount of resources we have today online is just tremendous. I never had access to that, right? And I think it's so much easier today to start, right? One book, that got me started was One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch. I think that's a great way.
You recommended that on last podcast.
Yeah,
right?
it's a great starter book, right? Because he talks a lot about not investing in stocks, but investing in companies. Different, right? Investing in businesses,
Stocks, looking at the prices and everything. You don't look at the fundamentals. That's
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to start. Educate yourself. I think there are a lot of courses that are available online. Of course, I think everyone, so I did accounting in uni, and
Did accounting help you be a good investor?
no. I can tell you until third year uni, even though I passed my exams, it's like I still didn't know, what am I doing? Debit here, credit here. I'm getting marked on making sure my balance sheet balances, but it made no sense, right? So I think understanding accounting numbers is easy, but it's not as difficult. It's not an accounting degree to get you to prepare financial statements. It's actually quite easy to learn how to read them and analyze them. What you don't want to be doing is go and take an accounting course, because that's about preparation of accounts, right? So as long as you understand the business, and learning accounting is actually not difficult. I can give you another link to another book you can plug it in. That keeps it so simple. I think you can learn it very quickly. Or we do it in our courses as well. Like you've attended, it's really not that difficult. You just could get someone to show you the shortcut to do it. Right? Yeah. And I think the other myth that we come about when it comes to investing is that you must be good at math, right?
Yeah, must be good at numbers and mathematics. Some people have this mindset. I'm not a number guy.
Yeah. Really, my job, I don't use anything beyond plus, minus, divide, multiply. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And maybe just now e to the power x, right? Compounding, right? That's it. It's not as, if you're investing, it's not as complex as kind of Wall Street puts it out to be.
Are your formulas easier than Form 5 mathematics or AdMaths? Less formulas than that?
I would say so. Yeah, it's just plus, minus, divide,
because
multiply.
I attended your course and I realized how little formulas you have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're saying that if you're not number inclined or you're not mathematically or business inclined, it doesn't matter. You can still learn.
Yeah.
It's actually very easy.
Yeah,
right?
quite easy. Yeah.
Right? But you need the right teacher lah. Right? Try to make it easy.
The platform. Yeah. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So then the first thing before I even start investing is to educate myself.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is it? I see that when you talk about education, financial education, you and your brother, you're very passionate about it. You see there's a sparkle in your eyes, like, wow, talk about financial education. What is it that really inspires you to teach people how to invest?
I think it's so understated that we do so many things, like we get our kids to become lawyers, doctors, and engineers and all. Well, that's great, right? We need skills like that, right? But I think one skill that cuts across all regardless whatever you do is financial literacy or investment literacy. It cuts across all, right? Whether you're a doctor or a lawyer or you're an accountant or barista. I mean, the moment you're born, you use money, right? And it's until you die also. After you die also, you still need to use money. Right?
They say that after you got problems your whole life. The only time you have no problem is after you're dead. And then you become someone else's problem.
Correct. Right.
You become the problem for someone else.
Correct, right? Yeah. And it's so integral part of our life. And I guess in some cultures, it's a taboo even talk about it. Right? And I know for a fact they don't teach this in schools. Like, it's not.
How's this taboo affected us? What, in your opinion, how's this non-talking about money? How is it impacting us?
I think it has. I think it has impacted families, right? Like I know, like I can share some stories. Like a lot of the baby boomers, so their kids are millennials lah, right? So my dad is a baby boomer. A lot of them were really into stocks and they all got burned nicely in 96, 97 crash, right? Asian financial crisis. And after they were burned so badly, I guess without even kind of analyzing why I got burned is because you go in there and gamble and you didn't know what you were doing, right? Is that they blame the asset class. I'll never touch stocks, tell my kids never ever touch stocks. It's a scam. It's whatever it is, right?
For reference, 96, for some people who may not know, 96 is when...
96, 97 was the Asian financial crisis where...
Soros was attacking all the...
The dollar, and then we had to impose capital controls on Malaysia. Debts were through the roof. Stock market was down default. 80%. Yeah, default. People literally committed suicide because of, margin calls, right?
Yeah.
They borrowed money to invest in stocks, right? So it was a really bad time, right? Yeah. Really, really bad time. I'd say probably worse than COVID, right? Because of leverage, right? Because people took a lot of debts to buy stocks, right?
Yep.
It's a crazy recipe for disaster.
I heard about that time. Malaysia itself also was very over-geared in
we were, right? That's why we had to impose capital controls, so foreigners couldn't even exit with the money, right?
Yeah.
So it was tough times, really, really tough times.
So how did that create a situation where the taboo starts?
I think we lost almost a generation of investors, right? Because they would tell their kids don't touch stocks, and they look at parents while also stressed, right? Some of them have been impacted by that, right? That they're like, we know we should stay away from stocks, right? So I think that kind of maybe that lost generation. Like when I talk to them, they're like, yeah, no, we only do FD, we don't take risks, right? So in a way, we've become very risk adverse society lah, right? And if you want to grow, you have risk is part of growth, right? So if you're saying that no risk, you're also saying no growth lah. So I think that's quite sad. So but if you do it the right way, and you look at it long term, I think if you look at the stock market over the last 20, 25 years, at any point in time you have entered, even at the peak, you're still higher than where you are today. Today you're still
just
higher
held on, yeah.
Right? If you just held on, right? So I think we are very passionate about spreading the word about investment literacy, because it's generally quite low here, because things like we are quite how do I say, a bit spoiled, because we have EPF that gives us consistent returns, 4%, 5%, 6% every year.
As we kind of discussed, it's not nearly enough, right?
Not nearly enough. And I know when my first job in Australia, when I had it, they were like, where do you want to put your superannuation or your EPF equivalent? And then I actually had to go and do research.
So it forces you to go and look, okay, what asset class I'm investing, what's
where
the
should I
annual
put my
return,
money?
what's the performance.
Yeah, who's the fund manager? So that kind of, it forces you to do that.
Yeah.
But here we don't have. So that's why we're passionate that, we must, because we already know our active income going to be shut down one day, right? And we know saving 20% to cover 100%, the math doesn't work, right? So we have no choice but to either have additional income streams, right, or learn how to invest, right? And that's both, right? Because governments know this, right? Because all governments set up pension systems. Why? Because they know that if they don't do that, that's going to be a social issue. It will be a social issue, right? When you have aging population, when people live longer, and if they have no savings, it's going to be a social issue, and it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So
what kind of impact do you see that happens if people are not ready for retirement?
Oh, I mean, we don't have to go so far. We go to Singapore, right?
Yeah.
We go across you eat at McDonald's or KFC, and you see senior citizens wiping down your tables and things like that, right? That is a social issue lah.
Yeah.
Right. You're at 70, you wouldn't imagine that you wouldn't want to be, doing that.
Yeah.
You should be retiring, right?
Actually, sometimes I feel a bit bad, because when I'm in Singapore sometimes, and the attendees, I mean, it's respect, right?
Yeah,
I'm supposed to serve them.
Yeah, uncle, right? Auntie, right? Yeah.
I feel bad, they come and clear my table. I'm like, I feel bad,
Yeah.
and that's their job, and you just watch that. It's it kind of breaks my heart a bit.
Yeah.
And more than oftentimes I meet people who don't talk but they're a very small percentage are very happy to work because they get to interact with people.
Sure.
But I think, you're right. I mean, it's a bit tough lah. Right?
Tough, right?
Yeah. If I'm the son watching my dad doing that, man, it's heartbreaking, man.
Yeah. And because the cost of living has gone up so much in Singapore, obviously the CPF was not enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, right? I mean, we're not just seeing 1-2 examples. It's all over the place, right? Down south, right?
So would you agree with me that putting your financial future in someone's hands is not a viable strategy?
I think ignoring that the time will come is not a good strategy. So you gotta, if your husband and wife, you guys gotta literally sit down and say, hey, you know what, we gotta work this out. Right.
And not avoiding the taboo of money and everything. You gotta go through it, have the conversation.
Yeah, I think talking, I don't know, talking about money is like talking about sex,
Yeah.
Taboo, right?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about it, it's a very kind of hush kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And we should be open and talk about it and face reality, because it will hit us one day. And the earlier you start, the better off you are.
Something hit me a little bit, no? If you're among guys, right? Guys will talk about, this is an adult channel. Guys will talk about sex more.
Yeah.
Right? Then talk about money.
Oh, nobody talks about money, right?
And they're not ashamed to talk about talk about sex.
Yeah.
Right? And imagine you're 24, 25, I'm going with this girl, blah blah blah, right? And then when they talk about money, it's like, ooh. Like,
no.
No.
That's private.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because both are important topics. I don't know how priorities are different for everybody. When you're 24, 25 with hormones, it's a very different kind of thing, right? But it's also, I would think that it's more important to think about money because it's our physiological need, it's our security, but yet it's such a sensitive topic, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. You know, and now as you share that, it really hit me that a lot of my friends, because I'm Gen Y, right, and I'm millennial, right?
Yeah, millennial.
And a lot of parents, like direction for the children is do the safe thing, get a degree, get paid in a good company, right? And really pushing the children to go and get good degrees and work in a good company. Right?
Yeah.
Maybe because and now I look back, my uncle, my friend's father, they've been burned. It suddenly occurred to me that there's this whole generation of, so it's not just monetary, they come out to life as a low risk taker.
Yeah.
They come out to life as a very like, oh no, I don't do this, I don't do that, right?
Risky.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that then they have the averse, the extreme risk taker, taking risks that you shouldn't be taking, right? Then there's the very,
Yeah.
I'm in the network marketing industry.
Yeah.
And I noticed a lot of people who got scammed are actually the Gen Ys. Yeah, Gen Ys also, right? They did extreme as well, right? But the point is, it really hit me that a lot of people are not willing to take risk. I think when I was still working in the hotel, they say that the Gen Y is the strawberry generation, right? Look good, nice, but they easily bruised because the parents try to shelter, protect them. So I mean, it occurred to me suddenly as an impact, right?
Yeah.
And very few people come out very resilient from this but what do you do, right? You look at your parents is like your God, right? Your whole life is your parents, and your parents is telling you don't touch stock, and you're seeing your parents being affected by this whole thing. Families fall apart, uncles, fathers, friends, someone committed suicide, someone here and there. Of course it will have an impact in you, right?
Yes. Psychological impact, right?
So you suddenly take less risk, not just in monetary but in everything in life.
Everything in life,
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you're wondering, then I don't have enough money for retirement, but you want growth, there must be risk, right?
Yeah. But the flip side to it is very interesting. What you just said, it's just financial literacy.
Yeah.
Just having a grasp of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Because when you understand what's happening, the stress level goes down, right?
Yeah. Correct.
You're just like, oh, it's happening because of this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. So the more you know about something, then you can better assess the risk level. Could be high or low. Because the less you know something, automatically, your whatever presumption you have is going to be high risk. You know what I mean? And of course, we spoke about it last time, right? Funny thing is that somehow our human mind works very different, right? The higher the return I tell you, the less
you ask.
Less ask about risk,
Yeah.
Actually, it should be the other way around, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are you getting those returns, right?
Your friend tell you, hey, you got 7% return a month. Is this company in somewhere of the Eastern Europe or somewhere?
Take my money.
Sell my house, put the money inside, right?
Yeah.
And then you say 10%, they ask you, I mean, you guys are looking at what, horizon of 10 to 50%, right?
Right.
And then 10,000 questions.
10,000 questions. So, it's human nature, right?
Interesting, huh? Right. But thanks for sharing that. It really, for me, hit. I just suddenly, like, the whole thing kind of gelled together. So, just to recap, to manage risk is portfolio management.
Portfolio management, allocation,
portfolio management,
matters, yeah.
And everything superseding that is education.
Yeah, definitely. The more you know, at least you go in eyes wide open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've attended. I know. I'm going to plug for Alvin anyways, right? Because I attended Tracker 1. It's the first class, and I'm surprised that in one day I can pick good companies.
Yeah.
I can buy good companies. I thought it would be like this formula, that formula, and then just in the end of the day, it was just this is what you look for.
Yeah.
And then if you look at this data, then you have a rough idea whether this company is good or not. Now the price is a second story, but at least you know the company is good, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And I started to apply it across not just Malaysia stocks. I went to take the same formula.
Yeah.
I went to some Chinese stocks.
Yeah.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I look at it, I was like, oh look, I'm buying something that's cheaper than it's supposed to be. Right?
Yeah.
I've been doing well. It didn't take long to do well. Yeah.
Great.
So I'm surprised how easy it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and you have do you have an accounting background before this?
No, I don't.
No accounting background.
I studied hospitality, so I learned how to do accounting and cost control for food lah.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But that's nothing to do with stocks lah.
Okay.
Nothing to do with stocks.
And you don't need anything beyond plus, minus, divide, multiply, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to highly recommend this to a lot of people because especially whether you're young or old, I think financial literacy is so important. This is whether you want or don't want. This is my opinion. Whether you want to do stock or not, whether you want or don't want to do, at least you have some tools ready to use. It's like you have the you have the fire extinguisher or you have the toolbox at home in case you need to use it.
Yeah.
And I think you guys put it at a very, very competitive, affordable price.
Yeah, 995 for 1 day.
A promotion price.
Yeah.
And it's for me, I walked out that day, I was thinking, why are you guys charging 995? Like, it's too low, right? But why do you put it at that price?
For us, we've always thought education very much for us to outreach to our customers. For us, it also benefits us because the more our customers know, we feel that the longer they stay with us, right? So because markets move up and down, right? So and as long as they understand that's normal and they don't panic when markets go down, and markets eventually and always markets recover. So education for us is very important to our clientele, right? So if we keep it as low as possible, it also benefits non-clients, right? They come in and learn great. They can touch someone, they can introduce someone, right? Make them better, right? Their lives can become better. Why not, right? It's I think it's a win-win. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
They hopefully don't get scammed. Yeah.
Well, if they want to find out more about Equities Tracker, we'll put a link in the description below, so you can go ahead and check out. You may be watching this video 1 or 2 years later. The price is not guaranteed to be this. It was a promotional price, but right?
Right,
So
right.
yeah, but I highly recommend because it made it very simple. Right? And the one thing I like about what they do is that they're very good teachers. They take complex things, they make it very simple. They equate it to something that we can relate to every day, which is like comparing health to companies. It's very easy to understand. Yeah. So guys, check it out. Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So I got a few more questions about now. Back to the topic. I want to invest to it. Now I know that I can't just depend on the EPF or whatever government funds. I gotta be proactive. Okay. And now let's go to the other end of it. I'm young. I'm 25.
Great.
And let's say I can only put aside 500 ringgit a month. Is that enough, or should I save more? Or that's?
I think the most important thing is just to start.
Just to start.
Like basically, I remember when I was 18, I opened my first broking account, and back then it was very difficult. It wasn't. You got to know someone who introduce you to Remisier.
Really?
Yeah. It's not like you go online and nothing online, right? I remember I had to go to a broker's office and I'm a student, right? Just like, who is this fella, right? But it took a substantial amount of effort to do that. Today, you go online. There's so many. It's literally you don't even leave your home, right? You can just do it online. I think the first step is to open an account, right? Any broker, you can Google it. And to actually put in your first $500 or $100 or whatever it is. I think that's the most important step. Just to, now I got some skin in the game.
Is the mindset like I do it to earn, to invest, or do it to learn?
Could be both.
Yeah.
Could be both, right? You can say I'm going to pick up a new hobby. Instead of pickleball, it's investing, right? For example. Right? And you don't have to start with much, like $500, plenty, right? To start, to learn, right? And my advice is take your time, right? There's no rush, and don't compare yourself with your friends. And actually, those are all noise, because your friends will tell you how much they make in stocks, but they never tell you how much they lose. Right?
Yeah. It's like crypto, right? Nowadays, all the little pictures you can share, like, 300%, 100%. No one shows the red color one. Always the green one. Green one. Actually, I do that also. When I get all the green one, I will screenshot. And I won't show people, but I'll keep it all in the folder. But the red one, I never take screenshot. Never happened. It never happened, right?
Right? And then because those kind of things are sometimes when you share and what people FOMO and things like that. Oh shit, should I be doing as good, right? But I think take your time. If you're 25 today, 500 is plenty. But I think more important than the actual amount, if we talk about P again.
Yeah.
Right? It's consistency, right? Are you disciplined? Like, can you actually do a recurring payment? That would be your next step. Because now it's so easy, right? That it transfers automatically every month into that account. And that's an account that you don't want to touch, right? So that's what I would recommend. Like, learn, right? Of course, we also always get this as well. people always say, "Oh, you want me to come and learn investing?" I tell you what, how about I invest first, I make money, then after that I come and learn how to invest.
That's a pretty logical idea as well, right? It costs 1,000 ringgit.
Yeah.
Let me take my 1,000 ringgit and 2x.
Yeah.
Then I'll pay you 1,000, right?
Correct. Does it make sense?
Actually, it doesn't, is it? Because you're going to get slaughtered, right? You have no skills whatsoever.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go in the market where you got people who have been there for, I don't know, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, and organizations who got research team, everything.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're always on the opposite end of the trade, right?
Yeah.
So it's either one guy's going to win, one guy's going to lose, right?
Yeah.
So the probability of success, I would say, is quite low, right? So I would encourage you to experiment and kind of play around and learn, right? But more importantly, the consistency. Definitely get yourself some basic education at least, lah. I can tell you, if you are new to the market, you will not beat the pros.
You will not be the what?
You will not beat the professionals.
Okay.
No way.
You'll be the exit liquidity. That's
You'll
what
be
I say.
exit liquidity.
Question I want to ask though.
Yeah.
Does paper trading work? So for those who are watching, paper trading is like a demo account. Means that you don't really put money in, then you just do your trading or your investing, right? You just invest, and then you see what happens over time.
Yep.
And then say, oh, I made mistake. Does paper trading work?
So I did paper trading as well when I was much younger. But there's nothing like having skin in the game. So I realized when I was paper trading and when I bought 100 shares, every day I'll check the share price. There's nothing like skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's just me, right? So no matter how small, your minimum lot size is 100 shares, for example, right? Just do that first, right? Because then you've already put skin in the game. You are committed. Because paper trading is not non-committal. There's no real money in there, right? So I would go for commit even the smallest amount. Just like taking the corner, right? You got to commit, right? You cannot back off, right? Cannot off throttle, right? You just have to commit, right? Yeah. So no matter how small, you just got to commit.
What's different in paper trading and real trading then? Other than the skin in the game, like.
Somehow when you got skin in the game, you are interested because it's your money, and then I think that drives that motivation, lah.
Do you think that you have to also learn how to deal with your emotions more in the real game?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that's probably one of the key points in investing, right? Is how do you do what's not natural emotionally, right? Don't panic when prices come down, and when prices go up, don't feel so excited and just take profit.
Yeah.
That's
or buy even more.
right, or buy more, right? Or buy more when it comes down, and then take profit when
That's
it goes up.
interesting, right? You guys do the opposite. When you find a company you like, and the company, boop, and then you guys go shopping.
Yeah, we
right?
go shopping. Yeah,
it's kind of interesting, right? And then when the price are going up, you guys, I'm done shopping.
Yeah, I'm not shopping, right? Yeah, and then I have to discipline to take profit, lah. No matter how sexy and good the company, we just got to start taking profit. There's no wrong answer to taking profit. Yeah.
So it's like the learning how to not be emotional, because the emotions will say this is dangerous, sell now.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And prices tend to do that, right? When it goes.
Yeah.
And then it's the noise. Like today we live.
Oh,
in
when
a
you
very,
read the newspaper, Instagram,
Yeah.
X, right?
Yeah. You cannot even filter out. Very hard to filter out noise, right? So that one compounds that emotions that you feel.
So you're saying that if I don't do paper trading, which I do real trading, I will have to face my emotions, which is one thing that can make or break any investor.
Correct. Yeah. Because you're committed, right? You have real money in there. Whatever amount it is, lah.
It's like driving, lah. When you're driving, you have to self-preservation, because you have to survive.
Simulator versus real.
Actually, you know what? I just hit my mind.
Yeah.
Monopoly.
Right.
Some people play Monopoly, right? They can empty their bank account because this is a damn good investment, right? They will empty the bank account, and then they land on this street and like, I'm gonna whack you, Alvin, when you come here. I'm gonna charge you a lot of money, right? And they can make this kind of business decisions because their logic is like, I can survive the next round, right? Paper money, right?
Yeah.
Then when they come to real world, it's like, hey, this business, this company I always wanted to buy, the price dropped.
Can or not?
Cannot.
Oh, is there something wrong?
Right.
What happened?
Then the adverse opposite actually shows up. Interesting, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. So it's a good training ground lah for your emotions.
Because I've been like that. I've been those moments where in Monopoly,
Yeah.
I know that this is a damn good. I know that the chance of me getting someone here is really high.
Mayfair or
Mayfair, right? I love Mayfair. Right? Any Mayfair guys, they know to comment. Mayfair guys, right? Right? I'm like, I'm willing to empty. I'm always gunning for that. I always hope I land there.
Correct.
And when I get there, I always empty my bank account.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'll survive.
Correct.
Until someone step. But sometimes my brother or whoever's playing with me is try to buy me out of Mayfair and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But then when it comes to investing, it does happen. Like I know the formula, and then when the stock price comes down, you're like,
It's very hard to press that okay. And then the worst thing is, once you click okay, then they ask you, "Are you sure?" Then you're like, maybe no first.
And I made those mistakes. Like even the latest few shares I buy, I know it was a good price. And rather than kicking okay, the second okay, I go back and I reduce the volume I bought. I half the amount of volume I was committed to buy.
Yeah.
And true enough, after I committed, the next few days, the price
went up.
And then I was like, man, but it was I was paper trading. It was
Right.
Monopoly. I would have went straight.
All in, right?
Because my budget was this much.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to spend the budget.
That was a planner.
Yeah, that was
you
the plan.
stick to the planner, right?
Yeah, I didn't stick to the plan because the emotions came up.
Yeah.
I'm more of the king say person than the greedy person. Right?
Sure, one emotion because we're human beings, right?
And like you say in the last podcast, we are just like monkeys.
We're monkeys, yeah.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is that start real trading, but with a small amount first.
Yeah.
Test the
Small amount,
water.
500,
See what happens in here.
Yeah. Go through that process, right? All of us have to go through that process. Yeah.
How is community important in trading? Is it very important they need to be surrounded by other people who are trading, investing?
Investing, I think it helps. Like if you think of it as a hobby, and then you join a hobby club,
Pickleball club.
or pickleball club, or car club, or whatever. Right? It helps if you have friends in it because they kind of encourage you. But of course, you need to be like-minded lah. Like let's say we like pickleball, and that's talk about it and share things to improve. So I think community is quite important. But it's very important to get everyone kind of aligned to that same principles lah.
Same methodology, same principles.
Yeah, because you cannot cover everything, and the markets deal with millions of variables, right? And sometimes you cannot catch everything, and it does help to have a support group, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So Tracker One or in Equities Tracker, you guys have a community.
Yeah,
right?
we have a community. We meet up once a month. We do updates, right? You can ask questions, and you can ask questions. We do like a mentoring thing as well. That's something we feel that because it's continuity, right? Markets are alive, right? So there are certain updates, right? And it's kind of a community sharing it, and I've gotten a lot of value out from our community, right? So we'll be covering a stock. Some guy will say, "Oh yeah, I heard about this. That's what happened." I'll say, "Oh, okay." Then they share their experiences within this industry. Then we kind of understand a bit more, right?
Oh, because they come from a diverse. The
diverse
people there have a
backgrounds.
different background, different industry, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to come back to the topic of also retirement. So maybe some viewers are watching this video. Because I had this thought, right? I've written this up. If I have, like, for example, I got 30K saved up right now. Two options. I can either power one engine or power the other engine, right?
Yeah.
Should I power increase my income, start a business, or do some affiliate marketing, maybe network marketing or whatever, or do something that I can do outside my work?
Yeah.
Or should I take that money to invest? Because now I'm like, let's say I'm 30 years old. I know the power of time. Should I invest my 30K into here, or what would you do if, let's say, you're in that situation?
If I had a business idea that was like solid and I was passionate about, I would do it because that's my passion, right? Because I believe in that business model. So I think you can actually do both, because we don't have to start with a huge amount with stocks as long as you start, right? So I think you could do both, not necessarily pick one over the other. And it kind of also, because we had 30K today or whatever that amount is, you may not, we don't need to start with an amount type of stock. We can do a monthly thing, right? And if say you had a steady income already, you can already put that aside, right? So I'd say depending on personality, I think you can do both, right? It shouldn't be like a mutually exclusive, right? Either one or the other, lah. Yeah. And I think having second incomes now is quite common, right? It's become more and more. I think the gig economy is
It's growing, yeah.
growing, right?
I think under also the stress of rising costs.
Yeah. So, which I think is good because, the boomers, the generation of baby boomers, they were generally single income. But because of necessities, you're seeing that Gen X, they have, they look at multiple sources of income, which is good in a way because then that educates the next generation that, we only don't need to depend on a single source of income, right? And investing, it can be a source of income as well. Yeah.
But primarily, it's a long-term game, right?
Primarily, it's a long-term game.
Means that you invest, don't touch the money till when you say 30 years down or 25 years down the road.
I once met one of our a customer. Interesting, I was up in Taiping actually giving a talk with a bank, and then after the event, that guy came out and said, hey, because, we were covering some stocks. And said, hey, can you look at my stocks? He pulled out from his back pocket.
Wow.
He said, hey, just tell me good, not good. I was like, hey, I cannot give you financial advice. Right? But we sat down anyway.
Wow, solid man, that guy.
So damn solid, right?
Yeah.
We sat down and he had some really good stocks in there, right? And then I add up, his portfolio, that was, I think, a good 15 years ago. His dividends alone, back then, was about 250,000 a year.
250,000 a year.
Yeah. So he was clean back then. That was 15 years ago. He was cleaning about 20,000 a month just on dividends alone.
Wow.
Then I was like, hey, uncle, I mean, Taiping is a nice town.
Yeah.
It's small, right? How do you spend
20,000 ringgit a month?
Yeah, he said it's just me and my wife. We're retired. Right? And I asked him, I was quite interested. I said, how long have you been investing? He said, the moment my son was born, I already started investing. And I only buy blue chip counters. That's what he told me. Like your Tenaga, and he had Star and all those kind of things back then, right? In there, Public Bank and things like that. And I every time I earn, I just keep buying shares. So I didn't sell. He said because of that, I managed to put 3 of my sons to university, and it's because of this. And then now this is feeding my retirement. All right. So, and I think it was a great story. It's
Is he like a very high income earner in his previous job?
No, I don't remember, but it didn't seem that it was. Yeah.
Based on the numbers you've seen,
yeah.
Would he need to be someone who's making like 100K a month or 80K a month or 50K a month?
No.
You'll be a general uncle that
just general uncle.
With a job.
Yeah.
1 or 2 cars.
Yeah. Just he lives in a modest life lah.
Modest life.
And also Kampong is, it's a smaller town, so cost is a bit lower. And that was mine. It was 15 years ago. Right. So if I think about his portfolio
today right now he probably,
if he didn't do anything with his portfolio, I think today is probably pulling in at least double that in dividends alone.
Wow. That's very inspiring to think that I think again with a lot of social media, with a lot of things coming at us, we got FOMO, we got to catch up with our friends and everything. I think it's important to stay grounded with the value of time, leveraging that as much as we can.
Yeah. And even you're 40, you still got a lot of time actually. Yeah. 20 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have a massive income to make a difference in your retirement.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
So what I'm getting is the slow and steady, right? Slow, steady, consistent, right? Discipline.
Yep, discipline.
Right? Yeah, I think that's what's really missing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, one of the biggest discipline I've learned, I did in my last episode was, I learned this trick from Jivan Sahadevon where I open 3 bank accounts and I make sure I put in 20% minimum into 1 bank account. And the only time I withdraw the money is to make money.
Right.
You cannot withdraw the money to
spend.
Means I withdraw must buy paper, business or real estate. Anything that generates money. Anything other than that cannot take money out. Right.
Yep.
And what I learned from that was the discipline of just put the money there.
Yeah.
And then before you take out, you must ask your question: can I make money or not?
Yeah.
Cannot make money, don't.
Yep.
Put it back in, right?
Like a system, like a personal financial system.
Yeah, I even sometimes take loan from my dad account. I want to buy something, I'll loan the money out and I pay back with 10% interest. So my account always grow, right?
Oh, right.
So what I learned a lot is that, and I talk to a lot of people who are doing very financially well, means that not just making a lot of money today. That's not the point. The people who have means that they have accumulated an amazing amount of wealth. They have a very strong, actually not very strong, a very simple discipline, right?
Yes.
Just simple discipline. Put a bit of money aside every month, and then put it into an asset class that you understand, right? And you know that this one will make money. Whatever it could be real estate, right? It could be stocks. Right?
Whatever you understand, you like.
And it's like, and you know that's the risk. You understand this is the lowest you can go. I'm buying at this price, or this is more or less as low as it is. I'm buying.
Correct.
Yeah. That's just what I'm hearing. You know, what I'm hearing for today is that you don't need to pull on big percentages every single year or month to do well in retirement or investing.
Correct.
You just need to understand the idea of time.
Yep. Patience. Yeah.
Discipline.
Yeah.
Thank you for shedding light in the power of the compounding side.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me here.
I got so many questions to ask you, but I know that producers will tell us the time is more or less up.
Okay.
Right, but I really got a lot of value from this session.
Thanks, Thomas. I mean, it was,
hope you enjoyed it as well.
It was very fun being here to just share.
Yep.
I hope the viewers found it useful and they can have some takeaway and actionable items. At the end of this.
I think I did for sure. And guys, let us know in the comments, what did you get out of this session? What was valuable in this conversation, and what it inspired you to do. Let us know in the comments, right? Before we end, I just want to ask two questions. First question is, if somebody is in, let's say, and I know this is a really tough, nothing to do with investment, but let's say someone's in a very tough financial situation. I'm sure you probably experienced some in your life, or maybe met people who come to you with very challenging financial situation. What would be the advice that you give them as like a friend, Since that they are in heavy debt, they don't have enough money to pay back the debt, and they lost their job, or the income is disrupted. What would your advice to be with them, be for them?
I think breathe first. I think sometimes I think back, right? I look at my parents or our parents or our generation. I look at my grandmother. She shares stories. They grew up during World War, right? War, literally war, right? What could be worse? Think about it. What could be worse, right? She used to tell me she had to cut her hair, look like a boy, hide in the jungle. They had to eat tapioca for a week, right? So that they don't get found, right? And that generation was tough as nails, right? They survived, right? And they grew this nation, right? They were our forefathers that grew this nation, right? And if you can kind of look at how tough it was back then, and then we kind of fast forward to today, our problems seem very small. If they can overcome those issues, right? I always believe everything solvable, right? It's just how only, right? So if you talk about that, I've spoken to people that have actually used AKPK quite successfully, right? But it's also a bit taboo, I'm admitting that right? But approach them, have those conversations, right? If it's debt related, it's a government agency, you can talk to them. They could actually help you restructure all your loans, right? So at least you can breathe, right? And I think a lot of these money issues can be solved over time, right? As long as you have the will to solve it. So if it's that, it's probably AKPK. You might not even be at AKPK. You just might want to restructure certain things, right? Put it all down and speak to perhaps someone that is financially literate, that can kind of maybe help you out of that situation. I think that would be
just to really talk about it. Like, the more we don't talk about it, the worse it gets.
Correct.
Because that's the
address the problem head on. take some actionable
Don't
steps.
dabble. Yeah.
Yeah, don't dabble. And, I think there are a lot of ways. I remember when I bought my first house, I was like, wow, trying to find money for deposit, right? Then I got insurance, right? So then I actually took a loan against my insurance and took it out, right? So, it's there are a lot of ways I think you can be quite creative on how you can do that.
But the key is to not be ashamed to talk about it, right?
Yeah,
Go out and get help. It's okay to
yeah.
say, I need help. I'm not sure how to deal with this. Right?
Yeah.
And say, I need help, right? Rather than just trying to keep it all in.
Yeah, because you explode.
It does.
Yeah, right.
It does, isn't it? And then destroys families.
Stressful, right?
Stressful. Yeah. And I think that's a very valid. I can relate to that. The times where I was really struggling financially, I could bounce with my friends who could help me say that, bro, just put everything on the paper. Just put how much money you have, how much money you're owing, what's your previous month's income, what would be the projection. All right, okay. Then if you look like this, 6 months you're solved. It's like, I didn't see it, right? And if I didn't have those conversations with my friends, right? I wouldn't have got out of it. Actually, I was, I used the word conveniently friend, but actually it was my ex-wife when I was having a meltdown. Like I was mentally and physically having a meltdown because there was 1 year I was making 600 plus K and I don't know where the money went. Because I didn't know how to control my income. I was physically and mentally going through a meltdown. Like I couldn't function. It was keeping all up, but one day it just really hit me. And I was in my room, I couldn't get out. I was like almost paralyzed because looking at, I got credit card debt and then I got the loan, the tax I have to pay. I haven't paid for months. Now tax asking me for money. Right? And then what really helped me was when she took out Excel sheet and say, let's just put the numbers down. Right? Yeah, and I think it really helped for me to just have a conversation about it, put it on paper, take away the emotions and look at the data.
And just be honest.
And be honest. They say, look, I'm screwed. Right? Just be honest. And looking back, like only I judged myself. I was ashamed of myself. I judged myself. So most of the pressure came from me, not from other people actually. Right. And I think what you say is very, very powerful. Get help. Talk about it. Lay it on the paper. Be data driven. Right, emotion good. I mean, we can deal with emotions, but to solve a money problem, you have to solve with financial literacy.
I agree. Well, thanks for sharing. I mean, it's very powerful story.
It is. And since that onwards, I never go 1 week without looking at my personal budget, right? My budget and my finances and stuff like that. And it gave me a lot of like data to make decisions whether I can buy this car or not buy that car. Or invest on that. Alvin, thank you so much for being on the channel. It really your commitment to teach people how to invest, commitment to see people being empowered is what I see from you. Because when I'm in your classroom, I watch you. You're not just teaching. You have a commitment that people get it. People. You can just simply teach and walk away, but you really wanted people to get what you are saying, right? And it shows up in the content that you do. You can follow Alvin's channel as well. Your education, it's very inspiring. Because I think more than ever, people need this. School doesn't teach us how to do this. It's the one thing that's most relevant in our life, and nobody teaches us how to do it, right? So thank you for doing that.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks.
I'll end with one last question though. This is experimental, so cut it out if we're going very bad. All right. Okay. Keep it 100. We're going to end the question to ask all our guests. What does keep it 100 means for you? So for me, it's always about living life to the fullest, being full, being present, being 100% in life. Right. So what would be one way that you keep it 100 for yourself? So that you can inspire the audience.
I think I like this. I like this because in our companies, we always believe don't do half-ass stuff, right? It's don't do it if some, right? No heart to do. Don't do lah. That you want to do, then you do properly, right? I think I think for us for me, everything that we do has to have heart. You want to do it and you do it well. Don't do like 90% of the job, right? And I think that's what means to me, and that's how I do it at Equities Tracker.
Why is it important to do 100%? Put full effort.
Because if you're not gonna do it, then don't bother. So I'm very, either you're there or you're not there, right? There's just don't be half-assed about doing things, right? So you do it well, you gotta do it well, right? Don't take shortcuts. I think that's what's important, because at the end of the day, it will show up. Right?
And the difference is not 10% less.
Yeah. You will show up, right? If someone, even if you go to buy coffee and you feel it immediately, right?
Yeah.
And it's a feeling, right? It's not and customers know this, right? So don't half-ass it and, do it right?
Thank you so much, Alvin, for being on our show.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks
Thank you so
for having
much.
us.
And guys, if you enjoy the channel, please help us hit the like button. It makes a big difference to our channel. And please subscribe to our channel.
Support Thomas.
Right. Thank you. And check out Equities Tracker. Fantastic education for very affordable price. The community is great over there. I always see updates happening in the community, new things coming out. So that's what I meant by the commitment to make sure people get the education and get updated. Right. Thank you so much, Alvin.
Yeah.
And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and keep it 100, and peace out. Thank you,
All right,
Alvin. Thank
keep
you.
it 100.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
This podcast is managed and also created with Sparks Digital. Now, why should you listen to this ad? Because content creators like myself, we got so many things to do. And if you're a content creator or you're a marketing person or trying to reach out to more people, creatives are one of the most important part. How to do something, what to do, ideas and stuff like that. And I rely a lot on the team in Sparks Digital to create content, just like this one over here. So look, if you need help with ideas, campaigns, or even dealing with crisis management, whatever, these people, they're really smart and they're really fun to work with. And the best part is that it keeps giving me fresh ideas on how to grow my channel and also my influence, right? So big shout out to Sparks Digital. You want to find out more? Link in description below, and let them know that Thomas sent you. Maybe to give you a special discount. I don't know, right? But Sparks Digital.